Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, March 6th, 2023 Board of Commissioners meeting. First thing we have on our agenda, as always, is our invocation and pledge of allegiance. And as always, the floor is open to anyone from the audience. We're out there in TV land. If you'd like to come up, if you're a pastor for any church, any faith, any denomination, you can do so and come up and deliver an invocation and lead the board in a pledge of allegiance. Is there anyone in the audience this evening that would like to do that? Seeing no one's coming forward, I will ask our vice chair to do that for us this evening.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you so much for the freedom and the ability to gather here to do the work of the County of Currituck. We ask that you guide our decisions, you guide our thoughts, and you guide our motives tonight as we work together to solve problems and hear issues. Lord, we thank you for this beautiful place. We thank you for all that you lavish upon us, and we ask that you guide each of us safely home tonight. In your name we pray, amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Selena. All right, up next is our ethics awareness and conflict of interest reminder, and give that to our very capable county attorney.
Thank you. Pursuant to GS 153A-44, a commissioner has a duty to vote on matters coming before the board, but may be excused from voting on issues involving the commissioner's own financial interest, official conduct, or on matters on which the commissioner is prohibited from voting under GS 14-234 or 160D-109. In accordance with Chapter 2, Division 3 of the Currituck County Code of Ordinances, it is the duty of every commissioner to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearances of conflict. Does any commissioner have any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before the Board of Commissioners in this meeting? If so, please identify the conflict or appearance of conflict.
Anything from the board or anything on the agenda tonight? All right, thank you very much. Next up is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would like to add an item under the consent agenda, which is a resolution requesting an amendment to the 1995 Sessions Law to include Currituck County in the extension of bear hunting season, which would be, an additional 1 day.
Okay, thank you. I'll add that as item E for consent agenda. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. All right, next up this evening, we have public comment. We have a couple people signed up. If you made it here late and you'd like to speak, I'll ask for those people after we get done with the two that have signed up. Just a reminder, it is a 3-minute period, and we have lights up there to help you keep it short and sweet. So this evening, we have Mr. James Mims back with us again this evening. Good evening, sir. And just remember to give us your name and address, please, for the record.
Yes, sir. It's James Mims, and I live at 105 Chestnut. And just have a couple of questions tonight. What is the proposed minimum lot size in the next change to the UDO? When I reference the minimum lot size, I'm referencing the UDO, Section 10.3.4, Section A, that states family subdivision lots shall maintain a minimum lot area of 40,000 square feet. Any changes?
We don't, this is your time to speak to us. We don't get into a back and forth. So
Tracker.
I will say, just as a matter, I mentioned this last time on Commissioner comment, we're discussing that, and that will be an open public meeting format when we bring those changes forward to the UDO.
Yes, sir. I just want to clarify the hypocrisy when I say that as well. I live at 105 Chestnut. 0.33 acres is my lot size. However, I bought my home and lot together for just $53,000. And no, that wasn't from any family relations. That's what I call affordable housing. Obviously, we need to normalize this affordability at a minimum of 5-acre lot sizes, not these $500,000 homes on 0.33 acres, and simply not reasonable. My second question I would like to be answered is, when is the change scheduled to be released to the public for inputs? Next question. At the previous meeting, it was mentioned that there's misinformation that was spread on social media regarding impact fees. Is it a statement that can be made to the public now that indeed there's been no discussion between any committee members and Senator Hanig regarding new changes that inflict impact fees? And why not, if the answer is no? And then also, lastly, do the members of this committee support impact fees for builders as we continue to see school expansions on the taxpaying residents' dollar instead of the responsible party, the builders? That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, next up, I have Donna Robertson. Good evening.
Hey, thank you to everybody who's here tonight. Thank you for all y'all who serve. We appreciate it. Kind of new to this.
I need you to give us who you are and your address, if you would, for the record.
Donna Robertson,
Uh-huh.
104 Rumsey Landing Drive, Moyoc 27958.
Thank you.
Okay. So in the words of my fiance, he said, if you were going to get a hobby, why did it involve colored pencils? So here I go. This is my copy of the UDO. I've been reading it lately. Not only have I been researching the UDO, but I have also been researching impact studies lately. There's a couple out there. If you look into them, there's communities like Boulder, Colorado, Port St. Lucie, Florida, Bozeman, Montana, even Isle of Wight County. There's a company called Tischler and Bice. They've done over 900 of them, and they've had a finding that there is always a positive result on impact fees on builders being involved in the community, because a lot of times all these improvements result in higher taxes for the residents of the community, and a lot of times this puts a little bit of skin in the game for the builders. I've also been looking into the sand replenishment from Dare County. It looks to me like that's about $10 million a mile to have done. And I know you said you won't go back and forth, but I would just be kind of curious if anyone here could tell me. I've been looking in here and I can't find anywhere where it tells me how to amend the UDO, say like for minimum acre lot requirement. I mean, we've heard 3 acres, but I guess my question is not to go back and forth, but if someone could refer to somewhere in the UDO where I could research how that the UDO would be amended. So I appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you for coming up.
I'll say one thing. One of those 900 studies that Tischler's done was done here in Currituck. He did that for us. We took that study to the legislature when we asked for impact fees back in the late 90s. Never went anywhere. The Home Builders Association and the realtors are adamantly opposed to them. We have had the study done.
What about the citizens?
The citizens,
I mean, did they get any input? How does that work?
yeah, we went through the whole process.
Okay.
And it was not something that took place in one meeting. It was over several months of putting together this capital needs analysis. And it pointed out what each new house cost. And people in the General Assembly just turned their nose up at it. We don't do impact fees in North Carolina. And we submitted that information for about 4 sessions of the General Assembly.
Well, I'm sure there are a lot of other states out there that didn't do impact fees prior to them doing impact fees. And it seems to me at this point in the game, You know, we're all here. We all have skin in the game. I'm sure y'all live here. You have skin in the game. But these developers that roll into town, I mean, I haven't read all 1,000 pages of this, but I have read probably about 200. And I do see a lot of terms like, you know, for the betterment of community, for the citizens, for the home, for the property owners. But, and out of fairness, in about 200 pages this, that I have read, I don't see anywhere where it says for the betterment of developers. And I'm sorry, it's my opinion, maybe it's just mine, but it seems to me like the developers are getting a lot of betterment. I'll leave it at that. But if out of fairness, someone could tell me where in here I could read how to amend the UDO, I would greatly appreciate it.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming
Thank
out
you.
this evening. I'm sure we will address some of that in our comments, which is up next. Do we have anyone else that came in late that would like to speak to us this evening that did not sign up for commissioner comment, or public comment, excuse me? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public comment. And next up is commissioner comments. And Paul, you want to kick it off this evening?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, thank you. In specifically to the questions that were raised or the points that were raised earlier, I had an extensive conversation with Senator Hannick specifically about impact fees. There was a lot of back and forth about what he said prior to, it was approximately a year plus ago. That was when the legislature was in its short session. Not much gets done during the short session. He did take that up as a senator, as a state senator. Basically, the counties have lost a lot of ability to control our destinies with the state. There's been an erosion of authority to the counties, if you will, by the state, and this was another example. Typically, the way those abilities get taken away from the county is through abuse of the system. So back when impact fees were were legal in the state of North Carolina, one of the counties in the state they started off with a $500 impact fee that went up to $14,000 per structure. That was deemed to be excessive, hence the Home Builders Association, all that got involved. Impact fees were removed as a permissible, action by the state legislature. So that's why that's gone. To address UDO changes, I'm sure if you contact county staff, they can lead you down the path on how, UDO changes go through. Some of them you may be surprised are already in work. So on my comments, first of all, want to commend the volunteers. This is actually quite a busy season for brush fires. Everybody's thinking it's warmer. We got a lot of rain. We had a near miss yesterday in Scarborough. It was on the verge of having forestry call out their bulldozer and start bulldozing trees down. People, pay attention to the wind, pay attention to what you're doing. This one was set off by a model rocket, right? And it almost got very severe. One of the other things that got brought up that I specifically wanted to talk to, and I have not had a chance with gaining a bunch of facts, but I want to talk about the shoreline assessment that the county received. A couple of questions I had at the time that the assessment was provided. I did get answers back. Ike was kind enough to persist and get answers from the company that did the analysis. My first question was, why did you pick Isabel and what the rationale behind that? The study states that it was modeled off of a 20-year impact. The storm, the reason they used it was actually used by them as they did nourishment planning for Dare County. So they already had that data available. The challenge I had was, first of all, Isabel hit actually 20 miles south of Ocracoke, so quite a bit distance from us. The other aspect was it was kind of they say it's a 20-year impact, but it was really more of a hybrid storm. That one feature was a 50-year storm, one feature was a 15-year storm, and the reality is they just picked a storm that they felt that they'd already used. The problem is we don't, and this is a good thing, we don't have enough hurricanes to be able to determine what's true impact to the county is. And so that is hard to establish, that's hard to apply. So that was one of the challenges I had with why they used Isabel during that storm planning. The other issue I had is they noted, and this was the original purpose of the study, was what's going on with the sand in the sandbox. And we've had 2 years in a row now of gaining sand, and they don't really know why that's happening. And I think there needs to be more analysis on that. One of the other things that came up post that meeting was it was referred to, the cost associated with beach nourishment. Specifically, the OCTAX and the OCTAX fund balance was brought up as a potential means of addressing that, and the total of $39 million was used. The challenge with that number is that $39 million is not unrestricted. The vast majority is restricted, or it's already committed to other things going on. There's only about $11 million in that fund balance that is unrestricted or would be available. As was brought up earlier, the number is in fact, that Dare County is looking at, is in fact $10 million a mile to do beach nourishment. Dare County to date has spent over $250 million in basically money in doing beach replenishment, beach nourishment. I had a significant, I don't think it was the same conversation with Senator Hanig, but it was right around the same time. The read he's getting is there is minimal federal funds available to augment those beach nourishment projects, and that it could be the best of intentions that if that project were undertaken, that it wouldn't impact the general fund. The reality is it's going to in one way or the other. It's either going to reduce home prices due to the cost of operation. It's going to reduce the amount of money and funds that are available for other uses within the county that are currently being covered by OCTAX legitimately. And it will remain, in my opinion, going down that path could quite possibly be the most significant financial thing that Currituck County has ever faced in our existence. In Dare County, everyone is taxed to support the beach nourishment project. In Southern Shores, for example, even on the most western side of Southern Shores, they're still spending, or they're still taxed to help fund the beach. It's exciting to hear that Dare County is now interested in working offshore to help come up with a fix to help reduce that energy that is caused by the waves. It's been something that, since becoming a commissioner over 8 years ago, that I have long been in support of, not only as a environmental help there, but also with the opportunity of economic impact, with ecotourism, fishing, scuba diving, et cetera. I think that's something that we should be working towards. I know currently that the temperature for that amongst the environmental groups is not very good, but that is something that I think we should pursue, or actually work with Dare County to see, and what avenues are available there. So looking at next steps for the county. Yes, we've done a 3-year stand study, but it's really only 2 years. We had an initial reading followed by a year of weather, a second reading, another year of weather. So we've only really seen 2 years of data specifically within all of Currituck as to the impact or the sand. I would like to see us do aggressive sand dune preservation. Currently, the county only has $20,000 a year that's set aside to help augment with grants, sand fencing, vegetation, et cetera. What can we do to build up the sand dunes that we have? I'd like to see the increased availability of vegetation. The other thing that I was trying to champion 5 years ago was sand dune preservation. That's after, week after week, month after month, seeing the sand dunes that are our first line of defense being excavated, being relocated, being used to help fill the lot that the house is going up. And I said at the time, you know, the first thing that's going to happen once these sand dunes start going is we're going to start talking about beach nourishment. That's not in the same location, but the conversation was steered by the folks that were there, and that's folks in industry, developers, et cetera, went away from preserving what we have and looking to become just like Dare County. And the consensus in the room then was we need to join Dare County and be just like them. And we are one of the most natural, if not the only natural beach in North Carolina. And I would offer we're one of the safest beaches in the state, definitely in our region. I think we've had one drowning in 4 years. And a lot of that is due to, in my opinion, is the stability of our sand and the graduation of our sand profile underneath. In conversations with Michael Cherry, who runs our ocean rescue, he believes that one of the drownings that we had was directly attributable to the beach nourishment that had just been accomplished in Duck at the time. It created a 14-foot trough that our lifeguards were aware of, but is not something that is predictable or plannable. And the tragic drowning that occurred, the gentleman stepped off the deep end and went straight down. So with that, I would like to see us continue gathering data because I think that's where the value is, and go from there, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McCord?
This evening, we had a work session with Parks and Rec, which was really educational. The county just offers a lot of really great things to the community. I'm your commissioner on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. I sit on that. And Jason Weeks, our Parks and Rec director, was here and gave us a lot of data and a lot of stuff. There's over 1,000 kids playing soccer in spring in Currituck County, over 1,000. It's pretty crazy. So all those programs are growing. Parents, please support them. Keep your kids active, keep them busy. It keeps them out of trouble. So very important. Last week, and I see Dr. Lutz is here, I participated with the sheriff's office. We had lockdown drills at every one of the schools. You know, heavens forbid, we pray nothing like that ever happens in our great county that we live in. But to be prepared in today's times, because there's some dangerous and crazy people out there, unfortunately. But his staff and the school and the sheriff's office and really, you know, they did a really good job on the lockdown drills, and it's so important. The kids, I would say 99.9% of them took it seriously. You're always going to have that one or two bad eggs. I challenge those parents to be better parents so that you won't have that bad egg. But the kids, like I said, it was really good. We found you learned something. We participated in one at Knapp, and when the lockdown drill started, the bus pulled up to drop the kids off from COA, from where they go a couple times a day for different classes. And we had planned and so forth and everything, and, you know, nobody thought about. I mean, like I said, so it was very educational. The schools did an excellent job. They do an excellent job on stuff. I know if you go on social media, sometimes they'll trash the schools or whatever, but our schools are awesome, and kudos to him and his staff. The last week I was at the schools a lot last week. I felt like an SRO. But I participated in Read Across America to a second grade class. Miss O'Donnell at Scarborough Elementary School. Everybody knows her husband, Jody, from the radio station, but she's awesome. Her kids, they ask a lot of great questions, and they were so thankful to have, you know, an adult, public figure. I was law enforcement that day, as well as I know Commissioner Etheridge and Red and Commissioner Jarvis, and at multiple different schools we had things. So like I said, the kids ask, it's amazing. I had second graders. They asked some really smart questions. They were excited to see us. And like I said, we live in a great place. It's not perfect, nothing is, but our schools, I mean, like I said, you got some people that work there that really care about the kids, and it's awesome to see that we have that many. Like I said, 99.9% of them are really good. You always have those couple bad eggs. But that was it on that. The tons of events coming up. I just got an email for the schedules for the Muddy Motorsports for their season. So we got a little time for that. But We're doing a fundraiser with multiple counties for Special Olympics. It's the Polar Plunge this year. It's March 18th at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Our goal was to raise 10 grand. I think right now we're about at 7 and some change. So you can go on the Sheriff's Office Facebook page and you can click on and donate to that. Like I said, it's for a great cause. I don't know if any of my other fellow colleagues have ever. I know I've went before and participated at Special Olympics at the schools when they have the events. And that's an awesome thing as well. So like I said, nothing but positives. Don't believe everything you read on social media, believe it or not, because we do live in a great place and sometimes people will complain about stuff, but not everything on the internet's true. So thanks. That's it for me.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Etheridge?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Week before last, and along with Commissioner Jarvis, we went to a new wedding and event venue down in the south end of Currituck County, Loblolly Estate. And I got to tell you, if any of your kids are getting ready to get married, that's a good venue to possibly have it done and have the reception there. Like Commissioner McCord said, I had the opportunity to read at Shawboro Elementary School last week to kindergarten class and the first grade class. And to see the amazement in these kids' eyes, their desire to listen and learn, they were very well behaved. And I commend Mrs. Morgan and the kindergarten teacher, I'm drawing a blank right now, but Margie. That's all I've ever known her by because I've watched her grow up. But these kids, they're our future, and anything that we can do to inspire them to be good listeners and good learners, we need to do. Last Thursday night, along with Commissioner Kitty Etheridge, I attended the 4-H Achievement Awards banquet. And that's another example of young kids doing some great things. I had the opportunity to have a couple of brothers sit with me and their mom and grandmother, and they were artists, and they won the gold awards. And I swear, you could look at the paintings that they painted, and you would think it was a photograph. And we've got such talented people coming up, and we should encourage our 4-H program. And they reach out and touch over 100 children in this county, and that number needs to be increased because 4-H is a good program. Lastly, I've had the opportunity to ask Mary Beth Noons, our Emergency Operations Director, about the trains that come through Currituck County with what's happened in East Palestine, Ohio. And they have reached out to the railroad and been assured that Chesapeake and Albemarle do not haul hazardous chemicals or materials on the rail cars that go throughout Currituck County. In the event of a derailment, there is a matrix plan put into place that they know who to contact, how to contact, what resources to pull in to help handle the derailment. I've been around here a long time, and I can only remember 2 derailments in my lifetime, and both was on my farm, Dad's farm. So it doesn't happen very often, but it is pretty interesting when one does happen to watch what they go through to put them back on the track.
They had one, Owen, on the trestle at Bob's Fishing Hole right after we moved here.
Mm-hmm.
The train derailed on the trestle in the middle over the water.
Yeah, the last one that we had on the farm, that's where the pass track and side track, and somehow or another the switch got bent, and the first engine went down one track and the second engine went down the other track.
All right. Is that it for you this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Payment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I just want to say that the Currituck Extensions Advisory Council was activated recently again from being inactive for a little while. And we met last week, and its advisory is made up of different individuals throughout the county. And I was asked to be part of that advisory council. We met last week, and one of the major goals that we wanted to accomplish was how do we get the word out to the citizens of Currituck County, reach everybody out there and let them know what, what the accomplishments were of 2022, what they have to offer to our youth, our citizens, our elderly individuals. So what we've come up with is a few ideas, but the one that really took most of the votes, if not all of them, was the county gets the focus out to our citizens, I believe it's quarterly. And we're going to, and I talked to the county manager about figuring out how to way to incorporate the report to the people into the focus so that everybody will be able to see it. And then we're looking at some other ideas as well, just so we can make sure people understand what's available for them out there, what the extension office does. And looking forward to getting active in that and working for our citizens with that to get them involved more. Next, tomorrow, we have, the county has the honor we're going to have a ribbon cutting for one of our citizens in Currituck County. We have a Army Staff Sergeant, Chris Burrell, who was wounded in Iraq in 2007. He had his left leg severely damaged, with it being severed above his knee, among some other head injuries and whatnot. But an NFL Pro Bowler, Jared Allen, has a foundation now where he comes around and he will build accessible homes for wounded warriors. And he has built one in Currituck County for Staff Sergeant Chris Burrell. And tomorrow at 12:30 at the Carolina Club in Grandy, North Carolina, we're going to be presenting, he will be presented with his home. It's a mortgage-free home with all the convenience that he needs to live there. And it will have some county representatives there, some other people will be there. But it's nice. We've got some veterans on the board. I know myself, the chairman, and Commissioner Beaumont are veterans. And the county, if you ever see when Wounded Warriors come to the county, it's a big event. The whole county is proud of our veterans and our Wounded Warriors. And it's nice to be able to see something like this taking care of one of our Wounded Warriors that live in Currituck County here. And I'll be there myself. I believe Celine, I'm not sure if any other commissioners will be there as well. But we did this a few years ago. We had one in Laurel Woods right across the street over there for another Wounded Warrior about 45 years ago, I think it was. And that was a nice event for them as well. So looking forward to getting that dedication for this individual and honoring him for the services, for our freedoms and what he did, and the sacrifices he went through. And lastly, I'll just mention that the volunteer fire departments still need your support. I know Lower Currituck especially has put on their Facebook page and getting the word out there. They're actively looking for volunteers. So if you can get involved in anything with your fire departments, your volunteers, they need your support out there. Whether you can fight a fire, they'll train you, or just support at the scene, giving out water, helping with traffic. Anything you can do, you can contact your lower or any of your volunteer fire departments, especially Lower Currituck, and they would love to get you involved helping them out. And with that, that's all I have this evening.
Is that home project on Richmond Court?
Yes, it is Richmond Court.
That was my lot.
Yeah, yeah,
Sold that to
yeah.
them.
So they've, yep. So that's the one that they've
Yeah.
they just built the home on it and made it all accessible for them. So there you go.
All right. Commissioner Jarvis.
Thank you. On February 24th, I got to channel my inner college student and wait tables along with Superintendent Lutz and several other, and I'll use the term loosely, celebrities in the county. We did that at BJ's Carolina Cafe, and we did that on behalf of the Currituck Education Foundation. While the staff did the heavy lifting, it was an exciting night. A lot of people, a lot of food, a lot of happy people, and a great cause. Over $2,000 was raised by this event. And the Currituck Education Foundation supports teachers, they support our students, they support our community in all that they do. And although I went home completely exhausted, it was a great night, and I encourage you, if there's another one of these events around the county, to please attend, because it was a great time. As Commissioner McCord mentioned, I also participated in Read Across America. I read One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish to a third grade class. Miss Evans had those kids just right where they needed to be. At the end of every page, hands went up, so I had to limit it to 2 comments and questions per page, because I knew Miss Evans probably had more to do than hear me read a book. But it was so exciting. They were so eager to share and to just be heard. And it was just an amazing day. It makes me say how much our teachers mean to kids. They mean so much to our community. They really daily are the face of love for these kids. And I'm so impressed with what our teachers do, and especially elementary teachers. I was a high school teacher, and I don't know why I told the kids when I got there, they terrified me. I taught high school for 30 years, and it really was never a terrifying experience, but they made it easy for me. And then lastly, I just want to make a comment about what Ms. Robertson and Mr. Mims said. We do have tools in our toolbox to control and manage the growth. One of those does not require us to amend the UDO. It is to simply stick to our land use plans and not rezone property for more and more houses. So I challenge this board to stick to what we have. Let's get this under control. If we are going to amend the UDO, I definitely agree. Amending it to increase lot size is a great way to manage and get this growth under control. So we do have those tools in our toolbox, and I hope this board will really take that seriously as we grapple with what's coming down the pipe. And finally, as you might notice, we're missing a commissioner tonight. I just want to give prayers and thoughts to Commissioner Etheridge as she travels back home from the Piedmont today, and let her know she's missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kitty, I was going to mention that. She's going to be out and miss several meetings dealing with some health issues, so we certainly wish her all the best and a quick and full recovery. Recently, you may have seen where the county did a press release. There's some scams going on in the real estate market right now. People are listing lots, and they have enough information to actually make it look like it's a legitimate deal. And I got alerted to this from a friend of mine that actually listed a lot as the agent for a guy, and he had the owner's old information, an email address, telephone number, all this information, enough so that this real estate agent thought he had a legitimate lot for sale. And so what these guys do is they generally get some earnest money. They'll get the deposit, whatever it is, $1,000, $500, and then they disappear. And so if you do that enough, you make plenty of money. But in some cases, they are actually selling the lot, and it doesn't require much. One crooked lawyer or a notary, and you got a wet signature, lot's gone. So we put out a little public information thing on that. There is title lock available. You have to pay for that. But at a Register of Deeds office, you can now you can go in and register with them, and they'll let you know if someone's accessing or if your lot pops up. Basically, it pings you. So please, if you own property here, even if you're living on it, they can sell it out from under you just about. So please utilize those services that are available to you at the Register of Deeds office. Take a minute to call them up and ask about this product that we have available. We just had a work session this evening at 5 o'clock. Some of you guys came in on that. We were talking about our parks and recs, and specifically the Corolla Park. I've been asked when we were going to get the playground set up over there at the historic park in Corolla. They're going to be starting on that hopefully the first week of April and finish mid to late May is the plan. And also been asked about moving the air stations. which are adjacent to where this playground set is going to be. The county's getting ready to go out for bid on that to get somebody to just move those over to a better area, to move them away from where the kids will be and the parents will be parking to access this new playground area we're going to put over there. I'll address the impact fees, minimum lot size as well, since you asked that question. I brought it up at our last meeting. As I said, I've met with every single commissioner, and every single commissioner here is committed to looking at changing the UDO to amend minimum lot size. Now, there is a difference between density and lot size. So you've got third acre lots, which was mentioned, but the density might be an acre lot for the whole project. When you move those lots closer into a smaller lot of, say, a third acre in this case, it creates more open space on the property itself if it was 100 acres. So the houses are close together, you've got more open space. The problem is, all that open space is dedicated to ponds now. So we're just the land of lakes. And I had that discussion with our staff because it's a concern for them. So all of that is being discussed, or will be discussed shortly. They're going to put together some ideas for us and bring those forward for us to discuss. You guys were here to the tail end of that work session. That will definitely be a work session, probably several hours long, maybe even several different meetings to accomplish these things. So you're more than welcome to attend. We advertise those just like we do a regular meeting on Facebook, website, you name it. So you're welcome to come to those and listen in. You cannot participate, but when we take breaks, it's a good time to interact with your commissioners and ask them questions. I too, I said I spoke with Bobby. He told me personally that he did not say that he would put a bill in. Apparently, there was some discussion back and forth in the form of text messages and writings that he did say that. So I apologize. I got the information from talking directly with him. However, looking at impact fees, one of the reasons, as Commissioner Beaumont mentioned, that they stopped doing it is they got out of control. And it's easy enough to say you put it on the builder. Well, the builder's not going to absorb that cost. The builder's going to put it back on you, the individual. And it doesn't matter what your house costs. So that $58,000 house, if it had a $10,000 impact fee on it, you're going to pay $68,000 for that home. If you have $1 million home, you still pay $10,000. So there's a disparity on what you pay, what your socioeconomic status is. So we do percentage based right now. We have a land transfer tax fee, and it's based on percentage. So when you sell $1 million house, you pay the same amount relative, but it's a lot more money. And that's a way for us to raise capital funds to put into schools, to put into whatever else we need to for keeping the infrastructure up in this county. So we will never see impact fees likely come back again. As was mentioned, the Home Builder Association is one of the most powerful organizations in the state. Your representatives at a state level are not going to do that. They're just simply not going to do it. So, it is what it is. We are going to have growth. And as Commissioner Jarvis said, one of the things that we can do is we could change minimum lot size. We can do a lot of different things to impact that and slow it down, change our maps a little bit, and really look at density and where we put it. Because there is places where you want it. There's times when you need it. For apartments or townhomes, those things are going to get lower price points for people and trying to get into the housing market. So those are all part of the discussion we're going to have in the future, and in the very near future. Lastly, since Commissioner Beaumont jumped into it on the beach nourishment. We undertook the 3-year study to do that. We are nowhere near to the point of saying we're going to pump sand on the beaches at this point in time. We are nowhere near figuring out how we're going to fund it. I did state at the last meeting we had $39 million in our occupancy tax. I also qualified that by saying I don't know how much of that is available. A percentage of that has to go to other things. It is fund restricted. No one expects that occupancy tax is going to pay the entirety of that bill. It cannot do it. However, it can offset costs for it, and in fact is called out in the legislation that created our ability to use OCC tax for that. It is specifically spelled out. So it can offset costs. As far as Dare County, all the residents paying, or Southern Shores, they all live on the beach. They're all part of the beach strand. they all benefit from the beach and going over to it. So it's a little different animal than Currituck County. When I said that we are not going to tax the mainland, I don't think there's a commissioner up here that is going to raise your taxes to pay for a beach problem. Most people that live in beach communities understand this. If you have an oceanfront home, you're going to pay more than the guy behind you. You get the most benefit from it. Your house receives that extra sand in front of it. So once again, I'm going to say to everyone here and on TV that there is no way that we're going to be doing that. They expect, and I have told anyone in my district that has asked that, yeah, you can expect that you're going to be impacted by this financially in the form of taxes. We pay a lot more for a lot of things over there. I pay for rollout curb service at my house. I pay for stormwater at my home, a lot more than we do over here on the mainland. So it is an expensive place to live, but if you want to be there, that's just part of the deal. And the last thing is we have met with, or myself and Kevin McCord met with several of the mainland fire departments recently to discuss deficiencies that were going on, and came out of that meeting. We had a great meeting with them, and our understanding is they're doing a much better job this going forward. It alerted them to their problems that we were having, and it alerted us to things that weren't their fault. So it was a great thing for us in our county. I also met with Corova last week with the county staff to talk to them about their needs at their fire department, which is completely different being in the four-wheel drive than it is being on the pavement. So they required a separate meeting just to address their issues. Again, it was a great meeting with them. I thank them for coming over here. We recognize the challenges that they have. And volunteerism, period, is not what it used to be. So just getting the volunteers to show up and then come out to a call out in the middle of the night is a tough thing. So thank you to our volunteers, and thank you to the people that volunteer their time to run these fire departments and help keep us safe. And with that, I will close that out and jump over to,
Mr. Chairman, can I say one quick thing?
no. Sorry, bud, we're moving on.
No, you're fine, go ahead.
County manager's report.
It was actually to what you said.
That's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll bring up a couple things for the board's attention, and then we'll end my comments with a video presentation, which I think Deb will be ready to tee it up. First of all, Currituck County was one of 8 counties that was selected by the UNC School of Government last week to participate in an adult protection multidisciplinary team workshop. The purpose was to establish best practices for providing a process to protect the most vulnerable citizens within the county. It's a multidisciplinary team, as the title denotes, and members of the Currituck team that attended the training, and that will be the multidisciplinary team with Samantha Hurd, Social Services Director, Lori Langley, Social Work Program Manager for Currituck, Jasmine Wilson from the Albemarle Commission Area Agency on Aging, our own Stacy Joseph, our Aging Senior Services Director, Ray Matusko, the Currituck County Clerk of Superior Court, Virginia Spivey, Victim Witness Legal Assistant from the District Attorney's Office, and Jeremiah Hunter, Currituck County Sheriff's Office Detective, also participating. So we're very grateful to be selected and to move forward on being able to start establishing programs and policies and procedures to protect the elderly in Currituck County. Going forward with, and kind of piggybacking on Commissioner Beaumont's words, erosion of authority by the General Assembly. Last Thursday, I participated in the weekly county managers telephone conference, Zoom meeting with the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. They denoted a couple of pieces of legislation that have been introduced that, again, is the General Assembly seeking to take away some of the autonomy and decision-making of local boards, whether they be county boards of commissioners or city councils. The first piece, they're going to, if this bill is adopted, it would withhold an amount equivalent to 150% of the cost of a county or city's audit, sales tax if the audit is late. They say in the bill that the state treasurer's office is to establish some type of appeal process, although we don't know yet what would be the basis for an appeal, would be an acceptable reason or excuse. But again, rather than focusing, which they already have the tools to focus on those units of government that have failed to, in a timely manner, filed their audit with the local government commission at the state treasurer's office. They're apparently, some, and General Assembly, are wanting to see a broad brush attack on all cities and counties. And then the second piece is at least the statute that has been in effect probably since the early 70s, is to take away the authority of a county board of commissioners or a city council to determine what the compensation will be for their members by limiting that compensation to no more than that which the General Assembly receives. So that would mean currently a board of commissioners, for example, could not establish their compensation at a rate exceeding $13,951, an expense allowance of $559 per month. But again, that's further erosion and taking away of county autonomy and the county's ability to administer its functions and to be responsive to its citizens and those that elect commissioners to office. So I would say as to that piece of legislation, if you're concerned about that, you may want to communicate with our own Senator Hannick, who is a primary sponsor of that particular piece of legislation.
Ike, while you're on that subject, what do we get paid?
You probably know better than I do.
I do. I thought you, so, everybody seems to think we get paid a bunch of money to sit up here or have buckets of cash dropped off on our porch. But actually, we get paid $14,400 a year to do this job. And
I mean, clearly, this board is you're not getting compensated truly for the hours that you spend on the job.
Right.
And again, that just goes back to the philosophy that it ought to be a local board and a local county decision as to what is deemed to be the appropriate amount of compensation for the board. Again, in response to and recognizing your citizenry and what they think is appropriate ultimately.
Can you also add to I mean, I know we hear that all the time. There's no insurance. There's no insurance package or anything
Nope.
with this board as well.
You
There's
don't
nothing.
benefit from retirement. No, that's correct.
Because people say that.
And if I may, the reason the General Assembly can do that is because we are a Dillon rule state instead of a home rule state.
Well, that's an important point that goes back to some of the comments you heard tonight during public comment. Counties in North Carolina, cities in North Carolina have no authority other than that which is granted to them by the General Assembly. And so what the General Assembly grants, the General Assembly also can, in recent years, has seen willing to take away a lot of that authority, including the ability to assess impact fees, which some units of government were able to implement back in the 1980s and 1990s, but that authority has otherwise been taken away. And then there's been several court decisions that have further eroded the authority and power of counties and cities to implement impact fees to address growth issues within their jurisdictions. And so with that, then, I think, Deb, if you can hear me, if you'll,
there she goes.
what you're about to see is a video presentation of an ad for our fire and EMS department, which I think was a very, very good production, and I think you will find it to be that way as well.
Currituck Fire and EMS provides fire and emergency medical services to the 30,000 permanent residents and over 1 million guests that come to visit its natural beauty every year. Currituck County has a rich history with unmatched scenic beauty spanning from the coastal beaches to its inland waterways. Currituck County Fire and EMS meet these unique challenges with a well-trained professional staff. Becoming a part of our team gives the opportunity to work from 9 stations located between the mainland of Currituck County and the beauty of Corolla, Corova, and Knott's Island. Among these 9 firehouses are an abundance of apparatus to learn and work from, including 3 4x4 conversion van ambulances, 2 4x4 engines, and 1 4x4 tanker. If you're not on the beach, a dozen Type 1 ambulances, a mass casualty bus, many engines, tankers, utility, and brush trucks are awaiting your driver's training.
Along with working as an emergency tech for Maryview Hospital, I have been employed with Currituck Fire and EMS for well over a year and have loved every minute of my time. It has been wonderful experiencing a growing workforce heading towards a fire-based EMS system. After working for 5 of the major systems in southeastern Virginia, it has been refreshing to witness this burgeoning fire and EMS system. It has been a true pleasure helping teach and being taught the most effective way to utilize the multitude of apparatus available on scene and during training revolutions. I cannot wait to see what the future holds. This is a great place for new providers to grow.
There are over 100 full-time fire EMS employees ecstatic to teach and learn from new recruits. As Currituck County grows, the opportunity for an abundance of fire and EMS training opportunities will continue to increase rapidly. Standardized training with a McGrath video laryngoscope and Butterfly IQ plus ultrasound is now operational. Included in your benefits package are a state retirement program and competitive medical insurance. For the ambitious provider, the opportunity for a long-standing ladder climbing career will be at your fingertips.
To anticipate the expanding needs for fire and EMS service delivery and try to stay one step ahead of that, Currituck is the fastest growing county in the state of North Carolina, so it's quite a challenge to keep up with the service demand as it is continually increasing as our population increases. The best part about working for Currituck Fire EMS has been the people. We have a very dedicated group of professionals that are very passionate about what they do, and it has been a pure pleasure to work with them. I served for 32 years with City of Norfolk Fire Rescue prior to coming to Currituck County Fire EMS. So the experience that our senior leadership has is extremely important to Currituck County and this success of what we do in the fire and EMS business. Our deputy chief has got 20 plus years. I've got over 40 years of experience myself. Our captains are all experienced, have well over 10 years of experience in the fire EMS business. And having that level of experience when things are rough out there and we're in a tight situation, they being able to call upon that vast amount of experience makes all the difference in our positive outcomes.
Well, I got hired in 2016, part-time as an EMT basic, and then I kind of progressed through the ranks, becoming an AEMT, becoming an advanced EMT, and then eventually I became a paramedic in 2021. I got my firefighter certifications in 2018, and I started out with Currituck while they were still paid EMS, and I shifted over to the fire division. I love working for Currituck because they're a really progressive department. I've always felt like my superiors are very supportive of me and my goals as a firefighter and as a paramedic. I've always felt like they have my best interests at heart. They're a progressive department. We have a lot of new technology here, and it's just a really good work environment. I really enjoy working. I'm really looking forward to seeing how we develop as a fire-based EMS system. Starting out in 2016 when we were just EMS based, and I've been with Currituck for almost 7 years now. Seeing how Currituck has evolved over the years, it makes me really excited to see how we're going to develop in the next 5 to 10 years. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Currituck changes and progresses.
After 25 years of service with Norfolk Fire and Rescue and 33 years of service with Nightingale Regional Air Ambulance, I found my way to Currituck County, where I serve as the beach captain, implementing a unified command on large-scale fire and EMS scenes, providing additional support to our crews on scene, and ensuring daily operations run smoothly. This is one of the finest agencies I've ever worked for. The beaches, citizens, and volunteers have made my decade of service with Currituck County a pleasure and a privilege. This is a wonderful work environment that will give any provider a positive momentum in their career.
Currituck County Fire and EMS provides state-of-the-art ALS-level emergency medical services to all of Currituck County, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are also a rated and certified fire department by the North Carolina Department of Insurance and Office of the State Fire Marshal. Corolla is also currently building a new fire training facility. We pride ourselves in assisting the Sheriff's Office, Corolla Beach Rescue, and volunteer fire departments with an all-hazards response, including search and rescue and near-shore ocean rescue.
recruitment video will continue to bring us top-notch and well-qualified members of our fire and EMS department.
Great, that's good, thank you. All right, now for our county attorney.
Yes, thank you. The United States Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit made a decision in the Mid-Currituck Bridge litigation. If you recall, I think back in the summer, the board signed onto an amicus brief in support of the defendant appellees, which are NCDOT and the Federal Highway Administration. The issue in that case was whether they followed the proper procedures laid out in the National Environmental Policy Act. And the plaintiffs, they argued that they did not, that they needed to provide a supplemental environmental impact statement because of the time frame. In 2008, the agencies took their first step with a statement of purpose and need for the bridge, which was improving traffic flow on US 158 and NC 12, reducing travel time between the mainland and the Outer Banks, and reducing evacuation times for Outer Banks visitors and residents. They filed their environmental impact study in 2012. However, North Carolina pulled bridge funding and put the project on hold. 3 years passed, and North Carolina recommitted the funds, and regulations required agencies to reevaluate that environmental statement given the passage of time. And when they reevaluated, they determined that a new statement was not needed, and the appellate court affirmed the district court's finding that that is correct, it was not needed. So in sum, the court favored the Mid-Currituck Bridge.
That was a unanimous decision, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Questions, comments for Megan?
Yes, sir, if you could, Mr. Chairman. I just want to congratulate or thank our county attorney for working through, we've had a Coinjock Canal, we've had a navigational hazard with some sunken boats in there. And she's worked diligently, and we've gotten that boat it's gotten removed now. So anybody out there who has seen that boat half sunk, so it doesn't slide into the canal, create navigational hazards for anyways, it's been removed, I think Friday or Saturday.
When I rode by on Sunday, it was gone.
It was gone, so thank you. I just that's been there for a long time, and I know a lot of people will be happy about that. Thank you.
Real quick question, legal team. Paradise Homes.
Yes, well, we are now to the point where we don't believe we're going to be able to successfully sell anything else. And so we have been in communication with at least one demolition organization to ask if they'd be willing to come down and demolish the remainder of it, and to what extent any of it is salvageable, perhaps maybe chassis. We thought perhaps maybe windows or some other items inside, like appliances, which have been in there from the beginning, might be salvageable, but the initial communication indication with that particular demolition company is that no, it's probably now just mildew and everything else. It's just needs to go ahead and be torn down.
Appliances are new.
Well, they were. They've never been
20
used.
years ago.
So,
State of the art.
so we're now moving forward with, we'll be doing requests for proposals to retain a company to go ahead and clear the rest of it out of there. It will become the cost will be a lien on the property to the extent that the monies received for the units that were sold does not cover the cost. Again, the remainder will be a lien on the property, and we can ultimately sell the property to recover any costs that are not recovered by the county.
Thank you.
From the sale.
All right. Anything further from the board? All right. We need a break before we jump into the meeting?
Let's jump in.
Okay. We're further into the meeting. All right. Public hearings is up next. Number 1, PB 22-22 Bissell Professional Group. They have a request for a text amendment to the UDO Chapter 4 use standards to allow multiple sales offices and model sale homes within a single development. And to the questions we received earlier, this is one way you can amend the UDO. You can actually come in and apply to amend it. Now, in this case, it took a lot of work for them, with engineers and working with county staff to do that. Kevin?
Thank you, Chairman, Vice Chair. Good evening, members of the commission. As you mentioned, this is a text amendment which would allow for more than one sales office or model sales home to be located in a development. This request was brought forward by Bissell Professional Group. Just to give you a little background, Section 4.4.6 of the UDO regulates certain temporary uses and structures. More specifically, Section D regulates this particular use. Currently, the UDO only permits one sales home or model sales office to be located in a development. Listed here are the specific requirements to that use. I won't read them all out, but I will summarize them briefly. A sales home or model sales office needs to be on an approved lot as part of a development. The signage needs to comply with the UDO requirements. It needs to be compatible in character with the community, specifically color, material, and landscaping. It needs to comply with the setbacks and standards of the zoning district in which it is located. The off-street parking needs to comply with the requirements of the UDO. It shall be converted into a permanent use or removed. The director may impose conditions to mitigate adverse impacts. And finally, it needs to be removed from the site prior to the issuance of the final certificate of occupancy for the development. So here we have the specific request. What this does is it actually just makes plural all the references to real estate offices and model sales homes. What it does is allows for more than one to be located in a development. This is particularly important in larger developments that offer a variety of housing types, as well as developments that have multiple builders in them. None of the other regulations that I just spoke to are proposed to be changed. So there's no specific goal or policy in the Imagine Currituck plan that speaks to this use. However, there is language in there that is consistent with the intent of the text amendment. The first is in the demographic trends for housing, which talks about accommodating the growth we are experiencing and how 154 new homes a year would need to be constructed over the next 20 years to accommodate that growth. It goes on to talk about new housing that's encouraged, a range of forms and diversity of housing stock. So what this text amendment would do would allow for builders to showcase a wider variety of their products. The second instance is a guiding principles for economic prosperity and resilience. This speaks to cultivate a diverse economy that encourages growth of traditional sectors. Obviously, residential development is a traditional sector in this county. It also speaks to providing a range of housing types and land development densities appropriate for attracting quality, environmentally compatible businesses and industries to strengthen the tax base. This text amendment helps promote a range and diversity of housing types and assist in sales of those models. So this use is a temporary use. It will be converted to a permanent use upon completion of the development. There are performance standards in Section 4.4.6 which address the potential impacts of this use, such as setbacks, parking, signage, and the duration of the use. Additionally, the director may impose additional conditions if it's reviewed and finds that more are needed to mitigate any adverse impacts. As such, staff recommends approval and believes that it is consistent with the intent of the Imagine Currituck plan, specifically where it speaks in the development trends for housing section and the guiding principles for economic prosperity and resilience. This text amendment does address a demonstrated need of the community. It would result in a logical and orderly development pattern and is not in conflict with any of the provisions of the Unified Development Ordinance or the Code of Ordinances. With that, I will leave the 7 text amendment review standards and stand by for any questions.
Typically, in these situations, they build a model home is what they're really having as a sales office, right? So we're not going to see, I guess, you could have a construction trailer there, right, or not? What's the
You
just
could,
wage
and
figures?
often that is the case because this applies to residential and non-residential development.
Okay.
You often see that in the non-residential. Typically in residential development, They will build a home. They'll, put the nicest,
they'll set it up.
amenities in it. They'll show the home, and then either the garage or an office in the home will act as the model sales office, where they'll have an agent, on site to assist any customers.
Mr. I got a question. Growing up here in Currituck, there has been some large developments. We've had large developments, and we've always had this standard in place, and it seemed like they've done fine with what they've had. Why all of a sudden now do we need more sales when with what's been working has been working great, it's worked in the past? I haven't heard anything that hasn't been working, so why do we need this now?
Well, I can address that in two ways. The first is that it was brought to our attention, the need with the FOSS development, where there are not only multiple product types, where you have the townhomes and the single-family homes, but also where two different builders are building in the same neighborhood.
We've had that in the past.
We have had that, and that is the second way I will address this, is we have become aware that this has been occurring in some neighborhoods.
And
there have been multiple model homes. As you mentioned, we have not heard any problems associated with that, but we have heard that it has been occurring.
And I guess, do we foresee this as a major issue going forward with large developments, that we're going to see more and more of this happening, or is this maybe a one-time deal that we need something like this for the fast track?
No, I think going forward, this would be used in future developments. Really, it's something that the industry kind of self-regulates. A builder or builders in a development aren't really going to build more model homes than are needed. But as some of these larger developments come forward, I foresee that it would be taken advantage of, not just with the FOSS development.
One of the things that you see, and using FOSS, but even using areas that I've bought houses and moved into, is not everybody can visualize what a two-story home looks like versus a ranch, for example, versus a townhome. And so places where you have all three offerings, a single-level house, a two-story house, or a townhome, people need to be able to walk and go, oh, I see how this works. I would even go as far as to say a rear load and a front load, type style house. That's a difference that, not everybody's used to a rear load type thing, and it may not be for everyone. I think the important thing, and I think you just stated it, Kevin, is the house is built. It's not like there's an additional residence that's in the neighborhood or a different type. It's one of the houses that is going to be sold. And you're right, typically they're loaded out with everything from the refrigerator that will text you that the milk is getting old to whatever else they want to throw in there now. And so I can see, to be honest, I'm kind of stunned that I didn't read that in the UDO, that only one model was available, but I always assumed that in new construction, there's multiple models. And multiple builders adds an additional.
And I guess that makes a good point. I guess a lot of developments in the past only had one type home in them. So
I'm resisting the urge.
yes. Okay.
Eagle Creek had one model home.
Yeah.
And that was converted after they sold out, and it's now a residence.
When they did Villages of Ocean Hill, the distinctive landscaping was, and remodeling that building was the model home sales office for that. And it had nothing to do with being a beach house. So, anyway, all right. Any further questions, comments for Kevin? All right.
All right. Thank you,
Thanks, sir.
Chairman.
Appreciate it. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Dave Klebitz. I'm an engineer with Bissell Professional Group. I'm here tonight filling in for Mark. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it. So I'm going to keep this short on my end if I can, and say I'm not going to add anything to what Mr. Kemp had to say. I will paraphrase what Mark said at the planning board meeting, which was, a lot of these larger developments now are being developed in multiple phases. They have multiple builders, and each of those builders often have multiple different products. So having one developer one builder with one home in a subdivision that now has, countless different types of homes by different builders, it makes sense to allow this amendment to go through and allow more than one model home in the subdivisions. So with that, I'm happy to try to answer any questions you guys may have.
Questions, thoughts? You got something, Bob? Okay. All right.
Thank
you, Dave. All right. This is a public hearing, so we invite the public to speak at these. And I do not have anyone signed up to speak this evening. But we have some people in the audience. Would any of you guys like to speak on this agenda item this evening? Seeing no one coming forward, I will close the public comment portion of this hearing and open the floor for a motion from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve PB 22-22, Bizzle Professional Group, because the request is consistent with the objectives of Imagine Currituck 2020 Vision Plan, including democratic, Lord help me.
Oh, jeez.
Demographic trends specific to housing and the guiding principles of economic prosperity and resilience.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second for this?
Okay.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, hearing none, carries unanimously. Do we have to bring this back again, or no? Since we don't have the full complement?
You do not, because this matter required a public hearing.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next up, under new business, item 1, resolution for the opioid settlement agreement phase 2. Guessing you had that, Megan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution that was sent out to all counties that are involved in the opioid litigation, and it's basically giving me authority to sign all the settlement documents for these new settlements that have been reached in litigation against Walmart, Teva Pharmaceutical Industries, Allergan Finance, Allergan Limited, CVS Health Corporation, CVS Pharmacy, and Walgreen Company. Each company, there's a separate document, and that the documents that have to be signed for each of those companies have to be presented by April 18th. So this resolution is just in support of receiving the new funds and allowing me to sign those settlement documents.
Okay, thank you. All right, any comments, questions, concerns?
I'll just make a comment that the opioid settlement task force that staff and I have put together is meeting next Monday to start the discussion on how we best appropriate those funds.
Isn't it Tuesday, the 14th?
It's Monday the 13th.
Monday the 13th.
Monday the 13th at 3 o'clock.
Amend your
Glad
calendar.
you brought that up, because I think I put it in the 14th in my phone.
All right, anything further? All right, can I have a motion for this item?
A motion to approve this resolution.
Second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next up is board appointments. Appointment of Commissioner Payment to serve a 2-year term on the Extension Advisory Council. And I think that should be pretty easy. I guess you still want to.
Oh, yeah, I was like, to be honest, I went to the first meeting,
All right.
and it was very productive. I'd like to continue if the board.
Move for approval. Second. There you go.
So we got Owen and Paul?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, next is Tourism Advisory Board, Commissioner Jarvis.
I'm appointing Damian Dondero to replace a member of the Tourism Advisory Board who has resigned. He will be filling an unexpired term that expires in November of this year. I have spoken with him. He's very excited, and I think he will do a very good job representing Lower Currituck. He works for the water park, so I think that is a great voice to be heard as to how we support Lower Currituck's business. So I move to appoint him.
Thank you. I will second that. Any discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next up is consent agenda.
Move for second.
That was quick.
Who you got, Leanne? Owen? I
Owen
think,
and
I think
Paul.
Owen got
I
it
think
barely.
Owen beat you again.
Owen's quick.
All right. All right.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank
Yeah.
you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And that'll do it for this evening. We're going to go into closed session. So I'm going to make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to GS 143-318.11A3 to consult with the county attorney and to preserve the attorney-client privilege in the matter entitled Currituck County v. Kevin Poole, and GS 143-318.11A4 to discuss matters related to the location or expansion of business or industry within the county.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.